I predict a Duke's victory.
Boom! Welcome to another episode of the Crush Fantasy Football Podcast with your host, me, James, and Mr. Michael Dolan. Good morning, my friend. You got your coffee?
Oh yeah, cup number 2, baby.
That's
The
nothing.
natural energy of the boom and tight ends alone, it should be enough to get me going. But I still need my morning brew.
Dude, I went to Starbucks. I got a venti black iced.
So you're locked in. You're ready to go.
With light ice, even. With light
the-
ice. That's the trick that no one knows. Light ice, you get more coffee. And they always put too much ice in anyway. You still get the coldness of an iced coffee with light ice.
Wow, Crush Fantasy Football coming at you with some life hacks too. But I felt like today might have been one of those days where you didn't need it either. We didn't talk about this in recording the first half, but scale 1 to 10, how pumped are you for the upcoming trip? Tell the listeners about it.
Dude, I might not. So I'm going to Hawaii, Kauai, today. Very excited. See, I don't get pumped. Like, I don't know how other people get excited. It's like, do you tingle or I'm excited in theory, but until I'm there doing fun things, I'm not like appreciating the excitement.
You're not a daydreamer?
No,
You're not
not
just
really.
like, oh, I'm going to do this and that, and I'm so excited, and I
No.
can't focus on work and all that. Oh, so
No,
I get it. So
no,
bad.
I'm
Once
not
I
a-
hit like a week out, I'm like, I can't do anything else.
Like the thing I get excited for is when you put that out of office notification like that. It's like that gets me going. That's my boom. Like, oh my
Okay.
God, I set this. I set my emails to not have to respond, and now I'm pumped. But no, like the actual Hawaii, I won't be excited until I get there.
Okay,
I don't
interesting. Showing
Maybe
much
that's different.
restraint.
Maybe is that different from people?
think
I don't
so.
know.
I
I don't know
think
how
so.
people experience excitement.
I feel like
But
most
yeah.
people, it's like once you hit the auto reply on, it's like, okay, now you are excited for Hawaii. And it's like, I can't wait to get to the airport. I can't wait to get on the plane. Like all that fun stuff because I just want to be there.
Dude, I'd rather record another hour, right? Like, I'm not trying to rush through this recording to get to Hawaii.
Hey,
I'm trying to savor the moment.
I got that. We can call up our friend the pilot. Maybe he can push things back an hour for us.
He can't do anything for us ever. Wait, my Montezuma is kind of travel related. Do you want me to just get into it?
Yeah, but first we got to know who sponsors Take Montezuma, of course.
The people know. All right, Take Montezuma, as always, sponsored by Soiree Season. Website link on the way. Just for those who are asking that they've gone in the show notes, they've looked around, they're like, oh, Dolan, James, where's the link to the Soiree Season site? It is coming, my friends. I have it on good authority. I'm not going to put a date. But use promo code CRUSHFF 40% off when that link comes. Or you can type it into Google, Gemini, whatever you use. Sponsored by Soiree Season. So, when you hit kind of the age of 24, 25, 26, you're a young professional, you're working in corporate America, you think you're a baller. What everybody does is they get an Amex or a Capital One card and they go to the airport lounges. My Take Montezuma is I absolutely do not like airport lounges.
Oh no. Oh man. I'm burning up over here. It's too hot. You may have just lost
Say-
Remy as a follower.
Here's the thing. So when I go to airport lounges, I get the salad. I get the cauliflowers covered in the cream sauce. I get at least 5 to 10 cookies, depending on where I'm going. And I love the cookie. Get maybe a couple drinks, maybe some wine, a cocktail. My stomach always hurts afterwards for the plane ride. And what's the one thing you don't want on a plane ride is like a hurt stomach. So I never feel good after an airport lounge on the plane. So I've decided I don't like airport lounges because there's no way you can walk in one and not eat 5 cookies. It's impossible. It's like when you go to your mom's house, you're going to eat whatever's there. So I can't not eat 5 cookies, and my stomach always hurts, and my plane experience is so bad because of the airport lounge. So I avoid them. I don't want the credit card.
I got to stand up for the lounge on this one. This is not a problem with the lounge. This is a problem with your restraint. And you can't say, oh, stupid Capital One lounge, stupid priority pass is making me sick. No, your stomach hurts because you eat 5 cookies before every flight. The lounge is awesome. I think the hidden benefit of the lounge is the best part is now you have no shame in getting to the airport early. I love getting to the airport early and not feeling rushed. And it's like now I can just show up like 3 hours early and I just knock a whole meal out, regardless of when I'm flying, unless it's like super, super early in the morning and I'd have to like wake up multiple hours earlier. I love being able to get there early, not feel rushed. You just knock out a whole meal for free, we'll call it, that's, already been paid for. Dude, lounges are the best. Free. And like, I'm not a big airport drinker, but if I'm like going on a fun, party related trip, like one of our draft trips or something, always fun to knock a couple beers back or something while you're there. So I think this is just blasphemy. I think you're taking out your cookie addiction on the airport lounges of America, of the world, I should say. And I will not stand for this slander.
Dude, see, meals too. Meals before flights. You should never. I want an empty stomach when I'm flying, more or less.
You just said you just proved that you don't. You want 5 cookies in your stomach.
Well, that's what I do. But like ideal situations, I don't go to a lounge. I get to the airport 10 minutes early. I get right on my plane. My stomach feels good. I drink a water. I have the little quinoa chocolate that they give out on United, and then I'm good. I don't need food. I don't need to be there 3 hours early. They overpack those lounges now anyway. It's like, you can bring 4 friends.
They're cracking down, though.
Not for me.
They're cracking down. No more guest access starting in 2026.
I don't like all the credit cards for me are ripoff because I won't use the airport lounge.
All right, are we going to disagree as much when we talk tight ends?
This is something I truly believe. This isn't just a hot take. I can tell you're serious. I feel better in life not going to the airport lounge. All right, let's talk tight end strategy. So, Dolan, how are you approaching the tight end landscape this year in redraft?
I think each year I tend to kind of teeter back and forth between do I like an early quarterback or do I like an early tight end? Because I don't like going both. And I actually really like what I'm getting out of the tight end position. I think when you look at especially the top 3 names on our list, because those are the consensus 3 names, I think you're getting just guaranteed target share. I think you're getting the combination of being a stud and being the potential number 1 in an offense, at worst number 2. At least the top 3 guys that I'm expecting are going to have a minimum of a 20% target share, and they have the skills and talent to turn that into massive volume of catches, ton of yards after catch, ton of touchdown opportunities. I know one of the guys we're going to talk about had some really unfavorable luck in the touchdown category last year, but I don't expect that to be sticky. And so I'm kind of all over drafting early tight end this year, and then it just really frees me up to not have to worry about drafting a backup tight end. I can take some more darts at, the harder to find positions like running back in the later rounds. And I'm just all over the positional advantage these top 3 guys can give you. And I think their cost is relatively manageable. So I do find myself going early tight end quite often this year. And I'm curious if you find yourself in a similar category, if you're doing more of the, late dart throws and streamers, or even some of the mid-round guys that we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah. So my approach coming into the year was get one of the 3 early guys or wait. That hasn't come to fruition though, which is kind of what I have found is the interesting thing is for the top 3, I haven't had the situation where one of those guys stands out and I'm like, oh, I like him better than the receiving running back options. So I think the one that I was closest is I had an A.J. Brown, Trey McBride decision, and I went A.J. Brown. And so in theory, I'm with you. I like the top 3 guys. It hasn't happened for me. The guys that I really like, the Warren, the Loveland, the Tucker Craft, are going a little earlier than the consensus ADPs. There'll be this tight end run in the 9th, 10th, 11th is what I've found. And so I've been kind of getting that group of guys in an earlier range than I would like to, just kind of by accident, where it's like, am I going to use my 10th on Tyler Warren, or am I going to wait for essentially Hunter Henry, Brenton Strange, Kate Otten? And I've been going with the guys we talked about last episode. I guess my gut reaction, while being kind of man in the arena drafting tight ends, and so I'm getting Tucker Kraft in the 10th and the 11th probably as my most common scenario.
Hey, you don't have to sell me on Tucker Kraft. If I do miss out on one of those big three guys, he's the number one that I'm targeting, and he's a guy I'm very happy to draft, and a round or two above ADP, because so many people want to get cute and play the ADP game with him. But I think this is probably a good segue into the guy I actually have number 4 on my list. This is the only tight end who I would consider spending a mid-round pick on. But the one guy who I would consider drafting in, let's call it the 5th or so round, maybe 5th or 6th, I think, especially if he's like falls a tiny bit, is Sam Laporta. And so we talked about him a little bit last time as, a guy who was the tight end 1 as a rookie, and he regressed a good bit last year. And I think there is still a lot of fear that could happen. I think a lot of people think the Lions offense could take a potential step back. I think, Amon-Ra St. Brown's not going anywhere. Jahmyr Gibbs is not going anywhere. Jameson Williams, I'm also extremely high on. Even rookie Isaac Tesla is starting to gain a lot of buzz and might have a role. But I still think Laporta is as talented as they come. You don't put up tight end 1 numbers, tight end 1 overall numbers without being an absolute star. And I think he's a star in an offense that's going to score a lot of points, that's going to be pretty fast paced. I don't love where he falls in the pecking order of the passing attack in that offense, but I think when an offense is as overpowered as the Lions is, even if he's only floating around at 15 to 20% target share, not a 20+% target share, he's still going to have a ton of touchdown opportunity because of the environment he's in, even if he's not necessarily a target hog.
Yep, I think you made a good argument for the ceiling. The only thing I'd add is he does have some contingent upside. If Amon-Ra or JMO were to get injured, then that really vaults him into what I would say this tier. So I had Laporta as my tight end 8, and you hit it well. It's the other options in this offense. In my count, he's the 4th target behind, let's call it Amon-Ra, JMO, and the combination of the running back. He was only 26th amongst tight ends in target share last year. And he actually outperformed last year, giving the looks he was getting. So the Lions had an all-time great offense. I think they scored 33 points per game as an offense. And he was 11th in expected fantasy points, but he was 8th. So he finished 8th in actual fantasy points per game. So he overperformed. I think he's super talented. I think in the right situation, this is a guy who could be in that top tier. It's just, there's a lot of mouths to feed, and I'm not sure they're all going to be fed in the same way as last year.
And I think that's why he's not going in the top 3 rounds of the draft. He's going in the around 5-ish range. And I think that's a huge part of it too. I would not touch him if he was going round 4 or earlier, but right around round 5, I'm like, okay, I can start to see the bounce back. Even if they spread the ball around, I think he's still going to be, a bad week for him is going to be 4 catches for 45 yards. And it's like, I can live with that if that's in my tight end position. When I know there are also going to be those weeks where it's, 4 catches for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to be a guy who's putting up many 150-yard weeks, but I think he's going to be a guy who has those 2 touchdown weeks pretty often. And I think that I like that a lot more than you do, just because when you get that out of the tight end position, it gives you such an edge, even if it's not going to be week in and week out consistency.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm scared of the Laporta target competition, and then you're scared of the Hawkinson. They're actually pretty similar, the Hawkinson target competition. All right, I'll go to what I think is the consensus 3rd tight end in most rankings. So I have him here too, is George Kittle. We know kind of Kittle the player, Kittle the ceiling. I think he was number 1 last year in fantasy points per game. He does it a little different than the other two elite tight ends that we're going to get to. So he's a less targets and catches guy, but a little similar to Tucker Kraft. He makes explosive plays downfield. 14.2 yards per reception last season. He was third in average depth of target at 8.5. He should be the number 2 pass catching option on this offense after McCaffrey. He is number 2 in red zone targets, number 2 in yards after the catch. So I think there's a lot of options, depending on how the 49ers offense goes, for Kittle to get you a top 3, even a top 1 tight end finish. I'm all in on the Niners offense. I've made the case on the Purdy show. I might have had a hot take with it at one point. But I love the Niners offense with the easy schedule. And Kittle, if he stays healthy, is absolutely going to feast in that offense.
Yeah, I am so high on Kittle this year. I actually have him up at tight end 2. I do prefer him to McBride ever so slightly. I view them pretty interchangeably, but when I'm looking at the top 3 tight ends, I think he has probably the best quarterback. I think all those quarterbacks are similarly tiered. I think Kyler's probably the most inconsistent, but you see a good amount of upside in there. But I think Purdy's someone I feel the best about week in and week out. I think he already has a very strong rapport with Kittle. And you look at, Debo's gone, Ayuk's gone. I think pretty quickly George Kittle's going to be the number 1 guy in the offense. And I think even when Ayuk returns, I'm not betting on that changing. And so give me what should be a very good offense, a dominant skill position player, a guy who, we've seen the numbers when Debo was out last year, when Ayuk was out last year, which obviously Ayuk was out like almost all of last year. He just breaks the tight end position. I think he's a very good bet to lead all tight ends in touchdowns. I think he's going to be a top 3 target earner at the position, and we've seen how efficient he is when he gets the ball in the hand. Kittle was consistently number 2 in those, broken tackles, yards after contact type numbers. So it's, a guy who's going to get fed the ball a ton in a great offense, and he does fantastic things once he gets the ball in his hand. So that's why I have him over Trey McBride, which I think is against consensus. And that's not a knock on McBride. That is just how high I am on George Kittle this year.
Yep. I have nothing to add. As long as he stays healthy, I think the floor is like tight end 5. Yep.
Yeah.
You want to do McBride, or you want me to jump into McBride?
I can take McBride since I'm already on it and touch on it a little bit. Again, like, this is a guy who is probably the number 1 in his offense. I think everybody who's listened to this pod knows how high I am on Marvin Harrison. I think that's the one thing that probably put him slightly down below Kittle for me. I actually think McBride is more likely to not be the number 1 in his own offense this year than Kittle is, because I think Kittle is a bit more proven, and I don't think there's a Marvin Harrison level player, behind him who could make the leap this year. I'm really high on Ricky Pearsall, but Ricky Pearsall and Marvin Harrison are not the same thing. I think that paired with the inconsistency with Kyler and kind of the Cardinals seem like they want to be a little bit more of a let's be a defense kind of ground and pound type of team, which I don't really understand why they're doing that. Don't get me wrong, but it does kind of seem like the way they're trending is why I have McBride slightly lower, but I have them in the same tiers. And I think, if they're both on the clock, if someone else takes Kittle before, I would still have no problem drafting McBride in the slots that I'm drafting Kittle in. But the dude was just an absolute target monster last year. He had like a 25% target share or something crazy like that. So even if that goes down a tiny bit, he's developed a strong rapport with Kyler. And I think the best argument for McBride this year is there's no way he scores so little touchdowns. He had 2 last year through the air, and I think he had a rushing touchdown as well. And for a guy who's that involved in the offense, there's no way he's not going to see some positive regression this year. If you give that guy even 8 touchdowns, let's call it, like a modest, not game-breaking number, but you give him the same usage as last year or even slightly less usage, that's going to be numbers that are like, oh, wow, this is like really eye-opening. This dude's an absolute stud. And I think he is the guy, unlike what we talked about, with Laporta a bit earlier, who can get you those 150-yard weeks, who can get you those 10-catch weeks on a more consistent basis. And so I think the volume's going to be there. The talent's clearly there. And I am very much betting on some touchdown regression this year that's going to be favorable for McBride. So I realize having him at number 3 means I'm low on him relative to consensus, but I still think he's going to be an absolute stud and very much falls in that, elite tight end that I'm happy to draft early this year.
Yeah. I have him at number 2. I honestly think there's a case. I almost did it for him over Bowers as number 1. Um, yeah, I mean, the numbers are elite across the board. He was third fantasy points per game last year. He's like ascending year over year at a different level than Tucker Craft, but his jump from 23 to 24 was kind of insane across the board. Targets, receptions, air yards. He was honest. He finished 1 catch under Bowers. I mean, Bowers has the awesome stat. It's like he led rookies in most catches ever, but Trey McBride was literally 1 reception behind him. And Trey McBride has, I think you said it, the one thing going for him is he is the unquestioned number 1 target in this offense. He was number 1 in target share among tight ends at like 30% last year. 5 points higher than Bowers, 7 points higher than Kittle. And you hit the TD regression. So I think everyone thinks that he's going to score more touchdowns this year. So I am all in on Trey McBride. I know I took AJ Brown over him, but I want some Trey McBride this year. I think you hit the floor pretty well. It's just kind of Kyler. He was 27th last year in target quality rating, which is essentially just the combination of catchable passes and average depth of target. So if Kyler and the offense as a whole can clean some of that up, I think that's probably a boost to Trey McBride. And he was 16th in catchable targets. And so if they fix some of that stuff up, if Kyler has a better year, the sky's the limit for this guy. And so I love Trey McBride. I honestly wish I put him number 1.
Yeah. I got nothing else to add there. So should we move on to the guy we do both have at number 1?
Let's do it. I mean, this is more your guy. Here, I'll start it, set you up. Brock Bowers. It's hard not to have him at number 1. As a rookie, Brock Bowers had more catches and targets than Travis Kelce, I think the best receiving tight end has ever had, with Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, and Desmond Ridder as his quarterbacks, and Antonio Pierce as his coach. His catchable target rate was in the bottom half at 19th, and his average depth of target was 24th. Both of those numbers should easily improve with Geno Smith under center. He only had 5 touchdowns last year. So a little bit, like everyone talks about Trey McBride with the touchdown regression, Brock Bowers is probably in line to score more touchdowns this year too. And so I think there is a ton to like here. The only thing that's slightly concerning to me, and this is probably overblown, is his snap share was only 4th among tight ends last year. And the preseason and the usage of Michael Mayer, who they took in the 2nd round, I think 2 years ago, hinted to him being slightly more involved than you'd like. And so as long as the snap share stays high, I think Brock Bowers is a can't miss.
Yeah, for me, he's as can't miss as he gets. Like he's in very strong consideration for me as early as the 1-2 turn. I just think he's going to catch so many balls, and you hit the nail on the head. Like he broke football last year as a rookie. Like he was an absolute stud in every single way. He broke not only the tight end rookie records, but he broke Puka Nakua's reception record. So, if you're looking for a guy that can put you receiver numbers in the tight end position, it is absolutely Brock Bowers. And like you said, he got an upgrade in every way imaginable. Like I'm not looking at Amari Cooper and thinking, oh, he's going to come in and eat into Brock Bowers' target share. No way, no chance at that. Nobody scares me away from Bowers being the clear number 1 in an offense where he dominated last year and now has a better quarterback, a Hall of Fame worthy head coach, a much better offensive coordinator. It's just like everything about Brock Bowers is awesome. He's a guy who, came into the league. He was the 13th overall pick. You don't see tight ends get drafted that high. We did this year. But I think the difference is Bowers was drafted 13th overall in a class that was absolutely littered with star quarterbacks and star receivers, guys who are typically going really early in the draft. And as soon as they were gone, they were like, all right, we're going to take this guy who I think is pretty widely regarded as the best tight end prospect of all time. He was literally the only tight end in the history of college football to win the Mackey Award twice, which is given to the nation's best tight end. And it's just, he's checked every single box as a prospect. He, made any boxes that were potentially checked in pencil. He marked them in pen last year as a rookie. And so it's just like, there is nothing not to like about this guy. He's a star with the ball in his hands. He's going to be the focal point of the offense. He's going to have a good quarterback who, in particular, loves to throw the ball over the middle of the field. And so I think just Geno and Brock Bowers is going to be just a wonderful connection this year. And I'm very much, like you said, taking the over on 5 touchdowns last year. He was the tight end 1 with 5 touchdowns. Get that up to 10, which I think is very, very, very easy to do. And that dude's putting up, wide receiver 1 numbers this year, not just tight end 1 numbers.
Let's play a little game, because the only thing I don't like about him is cost. So would you take Brock Bowers or Brian Thomas Jr.?
Brian Thomas Jr. That one's tough, but I go BTJ there.
Brock Bowers or Bucky Irving?
Bowers.
Okay. Brock Bowers or Devon Achane?
Bowers.
Josh Jacobs or Brock Bowers?
Bowers.
Wow. Drake London or
London. That's the one where it's close.
The receivers.
I think anybody inside my top 10 receivers, I take.
Even AJ Brown?
Yep. Even AJ Brown.
What? Chase Brown or Brock Bowers?
Bowers.
Wow, man. So you have them basically based on like consensus ADP around the 14-15. Puka or Brock Bowers?
I think because I still have Puka in my top 10, my rankings would tell me to take Puka, but I think my gut, just in vibes, I would, if those are truly Bowers. The 2 names I'm staring at, I'm taking Bowers, and probably going off book just because I love Bowers so much, and I have never been a Puka guy, and I hate how much I disrespect him sometimes. I can't fully explain it, but just vibes, I'm going Bowers.
I think I'm BTJ, Bucky, Devon, Drake, Chase over Bowers, and then Bowers over AJ, JT, Josh Jacobs. That's where I land.
Yeah.
Man, but yeah, tight ends back in the early, or I guess the late second. So we went from Travis Kelce to that bad man Brock Bowers. Dolan, anything you have to add? I gotta get to
Kelce. We gotta. I think we should touch on that real quick, actually.
Let's do it. I'll miss my flight for that.
I'll be quick. I think he was a pretty notable omission. I think a lot of people still, look at the name Travis Kelce and think, okay, he's going to be a stud. And I almost tried to sneak him back into my top 10 with the Rashid Rice news coming out and formalizing the suspension of 6 games, because I do think Travis Kelce is going to be a pretty valuable asset to start the season, because I think him and Rice occupy similar areas of the field in that Chiefs offense. And I think in general, the older guys tend to do well at the beginning of the season rather than later in the season. So I think for those 6 games Rice is out, Kelce's going to have a pretty big role in the offense. And so if you're just find yourself in a situation where maybe you drafted Rashee Rice, or maybe, you draft Kelce and pair him with a rookie who's maybe going to take a little longer to develop. I do think there are scenarios where drafting Kelce makes a lot of sense if you're looking for early season production, but I do not trust him over the course of a full season. And so that's where I'm at with Kelce. I'm really not touching him. I think there's always someone in one of my leagues who wants him. And so I'm letting them take him. He's outside of my top 10. But anything you'd add, or you just avoid at all costs?
Avoid at all costs, especially with the price. He isn't the same player. I mean, Rashee Rice was out kind of most of last year, and Travis Kelce had his by far worst season. It's actually such a steep drop off. 2022, he was 260 fantasy points. 23 is 271. Last year, he was only 145 total fantasy points. His 1.43 yards per route run was by far the worst rate of his career. I think he has a little bit of a connection with Mahomes and an ability to find a soft spot in the defense once in a while to keep his name on the TV, but I do not want him near a fantasy lineup this year.
I get it. I totally do.
I was expecting him to be the 15th tight end, not the 6th tight end.
Name value goes a long way, but I know you got a flight to catch, so we gotta wrap it up here.
Should I hit the airport lounge?
I think you should. And you should. And set the over-under on cookies. I think you got to go for the under 1.5 and see if you still have hatred boiling in your blood for the lounge itself.
No dessert-loving human being has ever ate 1.5 cookies. Once you eat one, you're automatically eating 5. That's just how it works. All right, my friend, next time we'll record, I think you're going to be in Asia. I'll
Most
be back
likely.
from Hawaii. We're going to have week 1 of NFL football, and you are going to be somewhere across the world.
One of us will be. All right. Good chatting,
There we
James.
go.
Safe travels. I will
Thank
see
you, sir.
you on our first football Sunday of the season.
Let's go.